This is the Hagmann Hagmann Report for today. It is Tuesday, May 12th, 2015. We're coming to you live from the studios of the Hagmann Hagmann Report, Northwest Pennsylvania. I'm Doug Hagmann at the helm with fellow investigator, researcher, and perhaps most importantly, my son, Joe Hagmann. Together, we are the Hagmann Hagmann Report, America's premier father-son investigative reporting team. Our job is to bring you the news that shapes the headlines, the news that is twisted and convoluted and hidden amid a funhouse of smoke and mirrors. Well, it's within the carnival that we call the corporate media. We do the headline and news triage so you don't have to. This show, portions of tonight's broadcast, brought to you by NatureBox. NatureBox ships great tasting, very tasty, guilt-free snacks right to your door with over 100 flavors to choose from. You can select, oh my goodness, Asiago and cheddar cheese crisp, pistachio power clusters, Big Island pineapple, so many more. You'll never get tired of snacking, bored of snacking again. Try NatureBox for free by going to naturebox.com/CFB radio. That's naturebox.com/CFB radio, or just go to hagmanandhagmann.com. Scroll all the way down, and when you see NatureBox right down there, you'll see it. Click on that, and it'll take you to our little world there, and boy, what a great offer. Free snacks for you. We'd like to thank all the new listeners for checking in with us from all over the world. Got a great email today from a listener in Germany, actually. Listener in Germany, thank you for Mila. Thank you for checking in. Appreciate that. Appreciate your kind words. For all new listeners, we broadcast live Monday through Friday, 8 to 11 p.m. Eastern Time. Our home base on the Internet is hagmanandhagmann.com, as I said earlier. And, of course, we're simulcast by the Christians United Broadcasting Network. Now, at hagmanandhagmann.com, you can access all of our past shows. And you can access our SoundCloud account. They're smaller audio files in case you download them on your, whatever you download them on. Tonight, we're going to be piercing the fog of disinformation, misinformation, misdirection, helping you to see what's important but are not meant to see, we like to say. Joe, it's great to be in our new studio. It's still trying to get used to things, and I don't know. It's fun. It's fun, but can't find anything at the moment.
It is fun, and it is time consuming. As you said, we're still getting used to the lay of the land here and trying to set things up to be as efficient as possible.
Talking about creatures of habit, folks. Did you ever? Well, I'm sure you have. You're so used to you walk in the door. I'm not talking about your home now. Okay, you walk in your door and you set your keys on a shelf or something, and it's always there. Maybe to your right or to your left. Who knows? And you move and you go to set your keys down, and they fall to the floor because there's no table there or something. That's kind of the way it is here at the studio. You're looking. We're so used to having things in certain places, and now that we have more space, our keys, metaphorically speaking, they're falling to the floor half the time. But it's great. I want to thank everyone for your kind support of our broadcast and helping us get to this point, and we're not going to let you down. We've been working pretty much, I don't want to say 24/7. I'll say 27. How's that? 20 hours instead of 24. But we've been working very hard to get settled and to hit the ground running. Really, we have big plans, and the big plans is we really are planning on a pushback here, a pushback against the tyranny that we're facing, and I don't use that term lightly, tyranny. It's a soft tyranny that we're under right now, but it's going to get much worse, and it's not going to be just here in the United States. It's going to be global. I don't know how else to explain it. If you can't feel it, if you don't see it coming, well, keep listening, because I think that you will. We're looking at some changes here globally, but even more important, domestically. And that's not to slight those people listening from other countries. No, not at all. But I think America has been a beacon of morality. It used to be, that is, a beacon of morality, a beacon of truth, a beacon of
not in my lifetime.
Well, yeah, I mean, but at one time there was a sense of a hedge of protection, and that's gone. I believe that's gone, and I believe that we're going to see the fruits of, or the result of, that lack of protection. God's judgment will be raining down on America, and of course that's going to have global consequences, and I see that coming here in the near term. And I think that all of us, wherever you're listening to this broadcast from, I just really, truly, in my heart, believe if your heart is troubled and you feel like you want to move, I don't think we're going to be able to move to get away from what's coming. And wherever you are, I think we're going to feel it. I mean, physically move. I also, I've got a pretty heavy heart today, and we just have a lot of work to do. As the remnant, I just want to let everyone know out there, everyone listening to this broadcast, we have a lot of work to do. You and I, you, me, Joe, we've got a lot of work to do with people, educating people, informing people. And, I was thinking today, I was walking my dog, and before I came to the studio, and I was walking my dog, and I was thinking, this is kind of like a salesman's job in a way. It's an investigative job. It's a journalist job. All of our positions. I mean, your position that you're listening to this. We're almost like salesmen. We're almost like investigators. We're almost like citizen journalists. We're almost, well, I suppose we're all those things. We're evangelists as well. We're mothers and fathers to those without maybe motherly or fatherly direction. It's more than just information. And it's not salesmanship. I'm not even sure if that's the right term. I think it's just presenting the evidence, showing the evidence, and showing what's going on, and equating it with Scripture, and showing how where it's at in Scripture, where we're at. There's a lot of people, I think, that have to be. There are a lot of programs out there, good programs. I mean, very, very great alternative programs in alternative media. But I'm so myself. I am so afraid of falling short of that very important connection between the Scriptures and information. In other words, we have to look at current events now more than ever through the lens of biblical prophecy in Scripture. I believe that, and because that's everything. That's the whole enchilada. And if we don't do that, then I think we're missing a big part of the picture. But we also have to look at it as well, as uncomfortable as it might be, look at the other side, look at the enemy's playbook as well. And but we have to be careful in doing that so we're not consumed by it, but we have to do it. And we have to know, or at least suspect, or based on historical precedent or previous events, and based on knowing who our enemy is, we have to anticipate what's coming. Not with necessary precision. We don't have to. I mean, we know something is coming, but we don't have to know exactly what it is. But we have to prepare for all eventualities, like we would prepare for a bad storm, tornado, hurricane, snowstorm, whatever. I think we have to do that now. That's just my view on things, and that's coming from the heart, coming from my heart, and I think I just want to share that with you. And we can't stop trying. We can never stop trying. And I heard someone say today, early on, I was up in my office early this morning, and I just heard someone say, America's gone and I'm leaving. Okay, well, where does that leave? I mean, that's kind of like I got mine. Too bad for you. I just didn't get a good feeling about that. I don't know. But tonight we've got a lot of information. Stan Deyo is going to be on second hour. Tomorrow night, great show planned for you tomorrow night. Listen to this, folks, okay? I'm just going to give you a little sneak peek. Steve Quayle is going to be on. But with Steve Quayle, Ross Powell, economist Ross Powell, is going to be on. You remember him, those people who've listened to us before. Ross Powell, survival401k.com. Here's what we're going to be talking about. Just a few things. Just kind of give you to whet your appetite. The Chinese Yuan SDR update. The Trans-Pacific Partnership. Secrecy to everyone doesn't bode well for Americans, of course, with respect to the TPP, and Joe's got some information on that today. And the question, does a TPP, does it codify the devaluation of the dollar? Is it related to Jade Helm, anticipated civil unrest? We're going to be talking about this tomorrow. And what about the federalized version of Bitcoin, FedCoin?
I didn't hear about that.
Yeah. Control of digital currency paving a way to remove cash as a form of remuneration. Isn't it interesting that there's a war on cash concurrent with all of this? The Federal Reserve shills keep floating ideas to eliminate cash to help improve the economy, or really to fix and I mean fix, not in the good sense, the Federal Reserve balance sheet. This is going to be good tomorrow. We're going to be hitting all of those points and more with Ross Powell and Steve Quayle now.
Some interesting news today out of Washington. The TPA, the trade authority that was needed to be passed the fast track, failed to pass the Senate today.
That was kind of expected, I believe, was it not?
No, I don't think so.
Well, we talked about that yesterday. Okay, we talked about that yesterday, but it was my view that, or I thought we said that it was going to.
No, people sounded surprised today. Senate Democrats Tuesday threw up a hurdle on fast track that the president and Republican free trade advocates couldn't clear. A move to end the Democrat filibuster and bring trade promotion authority to the Senate floor got a backing of 52 to 45 majority, falling short of the 60 votes needed to cut off debate. The TPA would give the president authority to negotiate trade agreements that the Congress could vote only up or down without amendments or filibuster. Senator Tom Caper of Delaware was the only Democrat to vote for the passage. Mitch McConnell, like most Republicans, a supporter of fast-track authorization, voted no on the cloture vote as
cloture
as the parliamentary procedure. By being on the losing side, McConnell preserves the right to bring up the measure again. The defeat at the hands of his fellow Democrats is a stinging setback for Obama, who has been pushing hard for the fast-track authority to facilitate passage of two huge trade bills he hopes to get through Congress: the Trans-Pacific Partnership with 11 Asian nations and the Transatlantic Trade and Investment Partnership with Europe. The deals are opposed by many congressional Democrats and by organized labor and other traditional foes of the free trade agreements, who argue that the liberalized trade agenda will accelerate the trend in recent decades of U.S. manufacturers shipping jobs overseas. The John Birch Society, the parent organization of the New American, has also vigorously opposed both trade deals and the Fast Track Authority. And I'm going to jump over here to some manufacturing news that I found today. 7,231,000 lost jobs. Manufacturing employment down 37% from 1979 peak. And it says the number of jobs in manufacturing has declined by 7,231,000, or 37%, since employment in manufacturing peaked in the U.S. in 1979, according to data by the Bureau of Labor and Statistics. This without the recent agreement, the TPA and the TPP. And there were some interesting articles on both sides today about this, but from what the best one I read was from the Weekly Standard: Obama, the most progressive trade agreement in our nation's history. and the president was trying to rally supporters around this trade bill. But he goes on to say, I understand the skepticism about this. I want to set the record straight, the president says. Right now we have an opportunity to set the most progressive trade agreement in our nation's history with enforceable labor and environmental protections we simply cannot count on other nations to pursue. Here's why this means so much to me. I want to make sure that any deal we reach reflects our nation's values in the way that hasn't always been true in the past. That's why I've said I'll refuse to sign any agreement that doesn't put American workers first. But this bill would do just that.
Oh, man.
And actually, Senator, what's it, Barbara Boxer? You can read my notes, ? Not on your life. Top Democrat Senator blasts Obama's TPP secrecy. Barbara Boxer, a Democrat from California today, blasted the secrecy shrouding the ongoing Trans-Pacific Partnership negotiation. They said, well, it's very transparent. Go down and look at it, Boxer said on the floor of the Senate. Let me tell you what you have to do to read this agreement.
Yeah.
You can take
Tell us.
a few of your staffers who happen to have security clearance, because God knows why this is secure, this is classified, it has nothing to do with defense, it has nothing to do with going after ISIS. Boxer, who has served as the House and Senate for 33 years, then described the restrictions under which members of Congress can look at the current text. The guard says, you can't take notes. I said, I can't take notes, Barbara recalled. Well, you can take notes, but you have to give them back to me, and I'll put them in a file. So I said, wait a minute, I'm going to take notes, and then you're going to take my notes away from me, and then you're going to have them in a file, and you can read my notes, not on your life. And she gave a little speech today, blasting the trade deal and the secrecy around it. Well, I have a quick clip from the White House allowed to be read or passed out it's not public. It's not even something classified that's being given to the senators. We just went over what Barbara Boxer said. This TPP cannot be released to the public. The secrecy around it, they say, is justified, but why? Why?
Why?
I mean, if they're so gung-ho about this helping the American workers, about this helping the economy and being such a good thing for this country, why have we seen this be hidden more so than it's been censored more than the 9/11 Commission almost?
So, okay.
In some ways.
Well, we drilled down to find out who is behind this and the secrecy, the architect. Who is the real architect behind the TPP? And it turns out to be a guy by the name of Michael Froman. Michael Froman. All right. Now, this guy is a few years younger than I am. He's a lawyer. U.S. Trade Representative since 2013. He was previously the Assistant to the President of the United States, Deputy National Security Advisor for International Economic Affairs. Interestingly, now if you look at this guy and look at his background, between 93 and 95, he was Deputy National Security Advisor for International Economic Affairs on the United States National Economic Council. As I mentioned, he was Deputy Assistant Secretary for Eurasia and the Middle East, where his work was related to an economic policy toward the former Soviet Union, Central and Eastern Europe, as well as economic components of the Dayton Accords. Now, this is where it gets a little bit interesting. After the Clinton administration concluded in 2001, Froman followed Robert Rubin from the Treasury Department to, well, guess where? Citigroup. He was President and Chief Executive Officer of Citi Insurance and Head of Emerging Markets Strategy at Citigroup. Now, this guy, he received $7.5 million, roughly. $7.5 million from January 2008 to 2009 alone. That's based on his position. Froman is also, now he's the same age as Obama, okay? And They both spent time at Harvard at the same time. Supposedly, Froman was not in touch following their time at Harvard. But Obama tapped him in 2004 for his Senate run. Froman acted as a volunteer advisor to Obama for his 2004 Senate run. Okay, now think about this. Froman introduced Obama to Robert Rubin. In 2008, Froman served on a 12-member advisory board of the Obama campaign's transition team. Now, all presidents, legitimate or otherwise, in this case otherwise, have a transition team. Froman was part of that. It wasn't until May 2nd of 2013, almost 2 years ago now, nearly to the day, that Froman was nominated to serve as the U.S. Trade Representative. So Froman is the architect of this secrecy and of this policy of secrecy. But it's interesting because as you drill down into Froman's background, and this is why it has been widely reported, at least in print, financial documents provided to the Senate Finance Committee showed that Froman had nearly $500,000 in an offshore fund in the Cayman Islands. Now, Obama himself had described the Cayman Islands, and in particular the location at Ugland House on the Cayman Islands where Froman had his cash, that is the biggest tax scam in the world. So you talk about a shyster. There it is. Okay, they're all that way, though. I mean, I hate to paint everyone with a broad brush, but tell me, people in politics. You know, my dad used to say, if they're not corrupt before they go in, they're certainly corrupt when they come out. And I've got to believe that's more true today than ever before. But think about that. Here you have this architect of the TPP who has ties to Obama back at Harvard, going all the way back to Harvard. Then of course, during Obama's 2004 Senate run, then we find out that he's got $500,000 stashed away in an offshore fund, biggest tax evasion scam in the world, and he's walking around, you know, without any. It's no big deal. Yeah, this is. He's also into the digger. The digger. The more we dig, we find out that he's into various alternative energy deals. Although that's not being widely reported.
Yeah, there's a lot that speculation about what was in this TPP deal, this TPA to TPP, and I don't know if we'll ever actually get to read the whole entire document. WikiLeaks released a chapter, an investment chapter, but just a few examples here. The New York Times was reporting that the secrecy is not only what killed this deal for the Senate, but also the currency manipulation that was in this. It was going to allow us to manipulate our own currency and drop its value more for competing nations. Also, there was talk of some kind of gun confiscation being part of this.
The gun registration then leading to confiscation. That's we don't want to overstate the case, but ultimately
that's speculation.
But yeah, the gun control part of the TPP. But see, okay, so
this is not just about imports or tariffs or overseas jobs. This agreement is complex with the national regulatory system,
right,
such as intellectual property laws, implications for free speech, privacy, public health laws. They go on to say the Obama administration wanted to push this deal through, but failed, as the trade documents were secret as national security information, was the claim, claiming that negotiating documents, including work produced by the United States officials, are foreign government information. The secrecy, the national security secrecy, may be appropriate to protect us from our enemies. It should not be used to protect our politicians from us. This is from the New York Times article. And they say that the secrecy surrounding this is one of the reasons where it could have been the reason why it didn't get passed. And also because of the jobs. They say that I guess there's a split, and that maybe it's between people who did read it and who didn't read it, but some of the Democrats say they opposed this new trade deal because of the damage to the U.S. economy and to manufacturing jobs that it would do. Substantial damage to those sectors.
Right.
And they say that...
But does this, and since you've been doing the research here, the TPA failed to advance. The TPA bill failed to advance. This does not necessarily adversely affect the TPP, the Trans-Pacific Partnership. The fast tracking of the TPA, which is the fast tracking for the TPP, is what failed to advance. The Trans-Pacific Partnership continues, and we have to keep our eyes on that. I mean, it's just
this isn't over yet.
Right. None of this is over. Not by a long shot.
Still will be able to have a vote on the TPP, and they can restructure. As we read in the first article, Mitch McConnell voted in a way where it will be able to be brought up again for another vote.
Right.
So we will. I believe this thing will be pushed through by executive order or. And what was strange is that all the Republicans were on the side of Barack Obama. Even Mitt Romney issued a statement saying if he was the president, he would push this through, and he agrees with Barack Obama, and this is one issue we need to get behind him on. Well, it's very convoluted. But back to the main point, nobody has been able to. Only lawmakers have been able to go to a secret room and read this without any notes or anything, only what they can remember being taken out of it. I'm sure all the representatives did not read this, but it's just staggering to me that it's unbelievable almost in a sense. When you think they can't become any more corrupt, when you think they can't become any more this is the most transparent administration in history, or supposed to be. Not
even close. I mean, it's
a joke.
Yeah.
It's not even. It's so scary what they're trying to do here, and they're trying to do it without the American people even allowed to look at what they're doing, and they think it's a good idea, they act appalled, and they act and wonder why. How dare they not put this through? Well. Why don't you let the people see it? Why don't you let the lawmakers?
I believe,
take
Joe,
parts of it, put it out there to the public. I don't know.
I truly believe that people are starting to wake up, and it's interesting that what you mentioned about the Republicans being on the side of Obama, and in this case, many Republicans, that is, to me, just drives home the point that there's only one party. This is really a single party. The paradigm of the right-left, conservative, liberal, Republican, Democrat is, as Alex Jones has pointed out for a long time, is no longer. And I think this is becoming more overt, more obvious. The pushback, therefore, will become greater. Now, if I can, and
the vote, by the way, was 52 to 45, 8 votes short of the 60. I'm not sure if I did that.
Wow.
One Democrat voted for the bill, Tom Carper, but the Republicans said the enforcement provisions would serve as a poison pill because other countries would not agree to do it as part of future trades. But the one thing that is interesting about this is, and that will keep this alive, is the fact that certain Democrats, a number of them, want certain provisions put in this bill, and then they were going to be okay with voting for it. So they might have to rewrite some of what they the Democrats want in the bill in order to get the number of votes they need to pass it. Jeez. I mean, who knows? Who knows how they're going to do it? This is something that's not going away.
No, and thankfully we're going to be talking about that tomorrow as well. But yeah, man.
And it goes on to say that, you know, the executive authority that the president has used is something to keep an eye on. As Republicans are behind this, would they be objected, or would they object to this, some kind of authority? I mean, they can't. The president can't. I guess he can, but it would be difficult for him to push this. He can't give himself the own authority to get this TPP through. But I wonder if any executive actions, what executive actions would be taken to try to help this along.
Well, I do believe that there will be, what was the TPA? What was the objective there? That
was the fast track.
Right, but in the end, that was giving a lot of power to the executive branch, and perhaps the objection there was more a what would you say, personal to the legislative branch than the actual bill itself.
And the White House said this filibuster was only a procedural snafu.
Okay.
And that GOP leaders in Congress will work out the differences with the moderate Democrats who are insisting that any free trade legislation may be coupled with other bills, including customs enforcement, which contains a provision punishing other countries deemed guilty of manipulating their currencies or for trade advantages. But it goes on to say trade supporters fell 7 votes shy of the 60 votes needed to overcome the filibuster, and they prevented even the beginning of the debate of Trade Promotion Authority, or TPA, which is also known as fast-track power. Under the TPA, the president is able to negotiate trade deals and submit them for an up or down vote in Congress without amendment. Without the TPA, any deal Mr. Obama struck would be open to amendment in Congress, making it almost impossible for a potential trade partner countries to negotiate with the United States, the Washington Times say. But the fast-track powers are a critical component for compelling the Asian trade deal known as Trans-Pacific Partnership, which Obama and his team are trying to finalize. And they say in the article that their own party is sending them away. They're the ones killing the bill. Wow. But the opponents on both the right and left question whether trade helps U.S. workers, questioning the statistics from the business groups such as the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. It goes on to quote Bernie Sanders, who say these folks have been proven wrong time after time.
We have a question. Doesn't the TPA amend the Constitution? And I don't think it amends it. I think it bulldozes it, perhaps more appropriately.
Yeah.
It's shifting the power, or shifting the authority from...
This Trade-Pacific Partnership they call a living agreement. Or
the TPA.
The TPP.
TPP, okay.
So this fast track is what they say would grease the skids to get the TPP through. But it is convoluted because... But
does it amend the Constitution?
Well, think about
that. That's the question.
Yes, it does. Because the Trade Promotion Authority gives the president the authority to push this through.
Without the legislative oversight,
right.
A normal treaty would require.
Right.
Right. And now we get into the talk of treaties. By the way, very interesting, 2 Republican presidential candidates, Senators Ted Cruz of Texas and Rand Paul of Kentucky, voted in favor of the TPA, moving it forward. And notably, MIA, Marco Rubio, Lindsey Graham, MIA, just for those taking names, as we are.
Well, Rand Paul and Mike Huckabee said that they have opposed this trade deal.
No,
this is from the Washington Examiner today.
Wait a second here.
Huckabee said the legislation would cede too much authority to the president. And I don't know if they have a quote from Rand Paul. Oh, I know they voted for it. All the Republicans in the Senate voted for it, I believe.
Right. Wait a second.
Aside from Mitch McConnell, I think.
Say that. Make that statement again.
Okay, this is from the Washington Examiner.
Right.
They said that Rand Paul and former Arkansas Governor Mike Huckabee said they opposed the trade deal, as did Senator Bernie Sanders. Okay,
I'm getting reports here that Rand Paul
he obviously voted in favor of it.
I'm looking at the .gov. I'm looking at the 52-45 vote.
Yeah.
Right from the government website.
Yeah. Well, I'm just quoting the article here.
So,
let me do a.
Oh, jeez. All right. No wonder people are confused. All right. See, this fast track, as you said, is a top legislative priority for the executive branch, for this Marxist in the White House. But
and not having the legislation is a huge issue. I mean, I see it as a huge issue. We don't know what's in it. We don't know, why Republicans are. I mean, why is Obama's own party voting against him in this matter, or taking this position at this moment?
Well,
without understanding without having the legislation, we can't understand why the people are on, whatever side. But yeah, this from yesterday: Paul opposes granting Obama fast track trade authority. So, I guess he's just using his mouth to please his critics, maybe. Not sure.
I think here's what I think we need to do. And ladies and gentlemen, thanks for putting up with us on this. But I think that what we need to do is take a very hard look at Mitch McConnell. And why? Because I think the answers. Did you happen to see where Obama had sent a note to Mitch McConnell recently? This is something that there's something going on behind the scenes here between Obama and McConnell. Some sort of attempting to work together, which is out of the norm here. There's something going on behind the scenes. I think what we need to take a look following the show is Mitch McConnell, find out what's going on there with Obama. Don't forget, again, last week that Obama sent McConnell a note. We don't know what was in that note.
No, I didn't hear about that.
Yeah. This I smell something really bad brewing behind the scenes on this one. Senate GOP leader Mitch McConnell switched his vote from yes to no.
Well, and from what I read, they were able to bring that back up because of his no vote.
Right. That appears to be a procedural maneuver, because that would reserve his ability to return to the measure at a later date. It's more of a procedural smoke and mirrors thing. There's something going on that we need to take a look at the McConnell-Obama relationship real closely. If you look at McConnell's position, he's really should we say he's the second most powerful lawmaker or second most powerful man in D.C. right now?
Well,
it's possible.
This vote was what did you say, the cloture on HR? Cloture. HR 1314, ensuring tax-exempt organizations the right to appeal act. The vote on a cloture, which means to end debate so that an up and down vote can be taken. A vote in favor is a vote to end debate. A vote and move to vote on the issue itself, while the vote against is a vote to prolong the debate or to filibuster. So, this was remember yesterday, and this is what I didn't understand earlier, yesterday we read an article where they talked about they wouldn't need the 60 votes. They wouldn't have to get the 60 votes. They would just need a majority. That's why they weren't voting on this or pushing this through as a treaty.
Right, exactly. And there's a lot of conflicting.
So this was the vote to vote for the authority. This was a vote to see if this was the actual TPA vote, it would have passed if this vote would pass, because they wouldn't need the 60. They would just need the majority.
And I don't want to confuse the issue more. If this was the actual TPP, not the TPA.
No, it wouldn't have any.
It wouldn't have mattered. Well, right.
Any
it doesn't
up
matter.
or down vote, they say.
Okay. All right. Well, there's moreover, there's and when you look at what Sessions wrote, Jeff Sessions, and it's on Hagmann and Hagmann.com. It's linked out right there. You can see what he wrote.
And I know it doesn't sound like it, but I only spent about 3 or 4 hours reading about this today.
Well,
this is how confusing it is.
Well, see, and here's the problem. You've got the Washington Post, the Washington Examiner, the Washington Times. There are different, multiple news sources that are actually getting their initial reports incorrect. Some of them are getting their initial news reports incorrect, which is troublesome when you're trying to do research. So you've got to go back to the .gov sites, and then when you get to the .gov sites, it just gets a little bit. You can find the voting and the things that they want you to see, but you're not seeing the background of this. But
in one report here, this is what I was looking for, they say that the full text of the agreement will be available for the public. Yeah.
Within 60 days.
Within 2 months. Before the president even signs the agreement in the first place, they say, and many more months before any vote in Congress is ever taken. So we'll see.
Right. And with respect to the TPP itself, as you mentioned, there are hidden. This is a Trojan horse for many issues, including flooding the United States with really people from the third world. This trade power to flood the United States with at least 100 million, some estimate, immigrants. You've got
the
really
currency manipulation.
Yep.
Other environmental and enforcement and labor enforcement issues. And then you have the speculation about possible Agenda 21 gun registration or gun. What did I say earlier? They talked about it had some type of small arms initiative.
Thank you. Yeah. I just got an email saying, "Hey, Elizabeth Warren is against it. Obama is for it. Cruz voted yes. Rand Paul, we're still not sure based on reports. Okay.
You were right.
And then that's what I thought. And then signed, I am so confused." Well, that's yeah, exactly. The act itself, the bottom line here, it would give Obama, the executive branch, and specifically Obama in this case, more power. And that's the only, and it would just shred the Constitution. But see, why? I just don't understand why the media. Well, I do understand. The media is just not pushing forward on this to really expose what's really going on. But I believe, looking at this, I believe the answer lies at Mitch McConnell. What's going on there? What did that note say that Obama sent to Mitch McConnell? What there's backroom dealings here, and this will get passed. I do believe the TPP will be passed.
I do too. They have to, as part of their globalist initiatives that they've been taking. And while there's still a semblance of an economy and job growth in this country, even though we know the numbers are very manipulated and things are not growing anywhere near the way they say. A new report today on Social Security says this trust fund shows a very bleak future.
Right.
As I read earlier, the manufacturing jobs are at their lowest. This will be pushed through, and it's not going to help. I mean, what people say is NAFTA on steroids. This is
and see. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, this to me is where we have to look at the things right now. Because right now we're looking at the clock running out on the Obama game clock. The Obama game clock is running down. He's got how many more months until he's out?
He's got a year and a half.
Okay. Well, 18 months, roughly.
Yeah.
Well, okay, I'm not going to do the math, but you can do the math. So he needs to push as much through as possible, including these globalist agenda trade deals, and he's going to do that. Yeah. But meanwhile, can we? I really want to, before Stan comes on, I really want to hit this. This is not getting a lot of play. Benghazi.
Yeah, I've actually been compiling articles about Benghazi.
Okay.
Over the last few weeks, there is still the hearings going on.
Right.
Go ahead and share what you do.
Okay. Obviously, folks, we had talked about this before. A special House panel investigating the 9/11/2012 terrorist attacks on the CIA compound in Benghazi. And may I say, it was not a consulate, it was not an embassy. I'm tired of saying that. It was a CIA compound. That's the Washington Examiner, that's the Fox News, that's to all of these media outlets who are saying that this is a consulate. It was not. Well, okay, this House panel is being led by Trey Gowdy. Now, Trey Gowdy, boy, looks great on television. Certainly can take people to task, can't he? But what he can't do, apparently, is he can't get Hillary to come to testify.
No, her testimony is going to be delayed.
Yeah. So
she's dictating the rules. She's not going to testify 2 days. She's not going to testify. She's not going to answer.
She's not going to testify.
She's only going to testify how she wants to. One day, with pre-questions she receives beforehand, and she's going to only answer what she wants to answer.
I'm sorry, but Trey Gowdy either is, number one, compromised, number two, being held back by powers higher than him, or three, he's got no testosterone, okay? If I was Trey Gowdy, I would be I would be livid. Man, it's a good thing I'm not Trey. It's a good thing I'm not up there, because I'd be yanking people by the hair to get them in front of these. And here's the other thing. Okay. Now, am I just out of the loop? I don't consider myself out of the loop. Did you know, ladies and gentlemen, that while Hillary Clinton was Secretary of State, she did not have a .gov email address or email account? Am I the only one that didn't know that?
I didn't know that.
I mean... Didn't the media, didn't Fox and MSNBC and NBC, ABC, CBS, didn't they talk about this? Can we get some level of chat or somebody in chat? Can we get the people in chat? Did they talk, or did they? I'm sorry, people in chat. Can you? Did you know that, people in chat? That there was no
government email being used by Hillary Clinton. Only her personal email that was on a server that was deleted.
You'll have to excuse the sound effects because we've got the wired lines there, and all of a sudden you can hear the shouldn't be in the sound booth here, but
yeah, that's strange.
But what's the chat? Did you folks know that Hillary Clinton did not have a .gov address, email account when she was Secretary of State? It was only her personal email. Can you give me some feedback from chat?
Yeah, didn't know that. One said they did not know that.
Okay, thank you. Because I felt really ignorant when I read.
One thing that troubled me reading this is that Gowdy's saying the Obama administration is hindering their ability to continue the investigation, noting that dozens of subpoena requests have not been answered. Since when are subpoenas optional? Another no.
Okay, well, the other thing. Now think about this. If she did not have any official State Department or .gov email account, then everything was done on her private email server, right? Which was expunged.
Yeah.
Not only is Trey Gowdy not able to bring her to Capitol Hill and have her testify, Trey Gowdy is saying, well, it's not our job to and it's really not our position to confiscate or secure the server that she wiped clean. We're going to basically take her word for it with respect to the emails that she sent. They did turn over several. I'm sorry. Let me get the exact. Let me see.
How does one go about wiping out a server or destroying a server?
Well, you don't destroy it. You just
Have you ever wiped out a server?
Well, only when I was running from the federal authorities to cover up my crimes. That's the only time I did it.
I mean, we're talking about what servers that they own their own servers, and they.
Well, this server was in our house in Westchester County, New York.
And I understand if it's anything like a hard drive of a computer, even if you wipe out the information, it's still everything is still logged.
Well, you've got
on a different. There's the magnetic. If I erased everything on this computer from with my ability, somebody, I know, that's what I mean. I don't understand.
Well, the server is what would be at, let's say, an internet service provider, where you've got this big. Think of it as just a big hard drive, and ISPs are required, for example, to have a tape backup for insurance purposes. Now, a lot of times when you buy a server. And I know I'm going to get emails saying you're an idiot, Doug, because you're wrong. But there is a backup for the server. But who knows what the setup was with Hillary Clinton. But nonetheless, the deal is this. Gowdy, let me just, I had my notes up here on this. And okay. The first thing we mentioned is Hillary Clinton's appearance. Not going to happen. And apparently, Gowdy looks good on television, but has no teeth or testosterone or willingness. It seems like he's running out the clock, and I don't want to hear from people. Well, he's really good because he's bringing, he's making it, he's pushing it toward the election time. No. I'm pulling up the interim progress update from the Select Committee on Events surrounding the 2012 terrorist attack in Benghazi by Trey Gowdy. It's a 15-page report. It was issued on May 8th, or was written on May 8th, 2015. It was just released on Monday, and I heard that. Okay, and the report said that. Let me find this highlighted report in here. Okay. The committee reviewed 50,000 documents, 50,000 pages of documents, many of which were duplicate documents produced to multiple committees. This committee assessed an additional 25,000 pages of documents that were requested during its initial evaluative work. Now, most were heavily redacted. Everything about this committee, either they are being slow-walked by the executive branch and by the State Department, or they are acquiescing to the demands of the executive branch and the other relative agencies. Okay? So this committee, this investigative committee, is just under Trey Gowdy is not doing its job. Period. And people will say, well, they may say, well, wait a minute, they're being hamstrung. Well, they've got the power, they've got the authority. What happened during Watergate? Look at Watergate study the Watergate hearings in the early 70s and compare them to what's going on right now. It's interesting because November 18th, 2014, this committee, headed by Gowdy, sent a request for documents to the State Department, including emails to and from Hillary Rodham Clinton and her senior staff, which also Huma Abedin and so on. Okay, now think about this. It wasn't until February 13th of 2015 that the State Department produced about 300 emails to and from Clinton during her time as the Secretary of State. Okay, now, this is important now. This is from the report. This is extremely critical. Despite this, the State Department has yet to produce one single document pursuant to the remaining portions of that request. In other words, they requested documents. The committee sent a request for documents to the State Department for emails. The State Department turned over a bunch of records that had nothing to do with the request.
The State Department also told the committee it cannot certify that it has turned over all the documents responsive to the committee's request regarding the Secretary's emails. Absent access to the server that housed the former Secretary's private emails, the committee has no way to verify the assertions. One, the former Secretary has produced the full universe of emails related to Benghazi and Libya.
Yep.
Two, that the server has been wiped clean and is currently void of any data that may reflect any email sent or received during her tenure as Secretary of State, including during the relevant time frame, the report said.
Right.
At every turn, the Select Committee comes up with a new excuse to further delay its work and blames its glacial pace on someone else. That from Elijah Cummings. Republicans are desperately trying to validate the $3 million in taxpayer funds that they have spent over the past year, but they have nothing to show for it other than a partisan attack against Secretary Clinton and her campaign for president. He finished with.
All right. Let me read this from the report. I like numbers. I think, to me, when you look at something, this occult numerology, I'm sorry, but I do believe messages are sent to those in the know. I think numbers are significant. I think word placement is significant. Page 11, third paragraph down. Let me read this paragraph to you. Another substantial obstacle to the development of a full and complete record of the fact relating to Benghazi has been the unique arrangement. Not interesting choice of words there, right? The unique arrangement that former Secretary of State Clinton had with herself. Okay, what does that mean? In August 2014, the paragraph continues, the State Department included in its production of documents eight emails to or from Clinton. Some of these emails indicated that the Secretary, now listen to this, some of these emails indicated that the Secretary used private email account to communicate about official government business. Other emails gave no indication whether the email account used was private or a government account. Now, same page. I'm skipping down a little because this is the kicker. And this is what, when I read this early this morning, I should say, when I read this, I had to read it like 5 times because I wasn't sure. However, it was not until late February, just prior to the public revelation regarding the former Secretary's exclusive use of a private email account to conduct official business, that the State Department finally discussed the full range of issues related to the production of these emails with the committee. During this discussion, for the first time, here's the key. During this discussion, for the first time, the State Department informed the committee that the former Secretary did not have a government email address. Now, is there any ambiguity in that statement? No. And she's walking around saying, whatever she was saying, indicating that she did. So, to the late-night comedians and to the comedians within the corporate media, address that. And to Hillary Clinton, address that. And to Huma Abedin, address that. For the first time, the State Department informed the committee that it never had possession of the former Secretary's emails until her attorney turned them over to the State Department in December 2014. So she never cooperated. And what about the ARB, review, the ARB, the other investigation, which everyone hung their hat on, by Pickering? How can you do an investigation that Pickering did and not have this information? So this is all a smoke and mirrors. This is a ruse. Benghazi, you break open the Benghazi issue, and let me tell you something. You break that open, you will find criminal actions of Hillary Rodham Clinton at the very heart of this, as well as Barack Hussein Obama and his Muslim Brotherhood friends and her Muslim Brotherhood friends. And, of course, the whole intent of Benghazi, please understand me, it was not some October surprise. It was not an attempt to, at least not initially, to free the blind sheikh, to make Obama look good. No, the whole intent, it was bigger than that. People, you've got to think bigger. The whole intent behind this, Benghazi, was to arm the anti-Assad rebels in Syria, to overthrow Assad, to blame Assad for everything. And Assad is not a good guy, he's not a good guy. But to destabilize Syria as a proxy against Russia. And intrinsically tied to Benghazi, of course, is the takedown of the U.S. dollar, as well as just the formation of a globalist, basically a globalist empire. But this drug running, terrorist training, terrorist running, and this is what Benghazi was all about. And behind it was the rogue elements of the Central Intelligence Agency working on behalf of Hillary Clinton, the State Department, and Barack Obama and his minions. And we're late for the break.
Ladies and gentlemen, to hour number 2 of this Tuesday edition of the Hagmann Hagmann Report. Today we are joined by Stan Deyo, as we are every Tuesday. His website is standeyo.com. Bookmark that site.
And if you go to hagmanhagmann.com, you can, right there, front and center, you can see him, see Stan, in his looking dapper. And it's a link directly to Prophecy Watchers. You got to watch that interview, guys. I'm going to tell you, 28 minutes of just a phenomenal interview on Prophecy Watchers. It's a link directly to that to the video. But Stan, how you doing?
Good. How are you guys doing?
Very well now, thanks.
Yeah, we're all moved into our new studio.
Yeah.
And show number 2 here from our new headquarters.
Yes.
Where's your new headquarters?
Northwest Pennsylvania. We just moved. We moved to a larger studio office complex, and we have now the ability to push out a lot more video, a lot more audio, and do some things that we were unable to do before. So there we have it.
Hey, great news! Great news.
Yeah. So, but yeah, Stan, you were fantastic on Prophecy Watchers, and of course the interviews you did. I mean, it's just great. What's on your radar of late here? We got so much to talk about since we had a snafu last week with everything going on. What's on your radar?
If I should, I don't know. What would you do?
Well, we'd. Oh man.
I just like to stir a bit. Yeah. Oh, there are a few things: earthquakes and prophecies, and actually, one really interesting thing that I'll start off with is something that I realized about late Sunday afternoon. I was thinking about, the book of the Revelation, various things, and I remembered a couple of times where two witnesses or the Lord's people were told to come up out of something. Now, in Revelation 11:12, it says, "And they heard a great voice from heaven saying to them, 'Come up here.' And they ascended up to heaven inside a cloud, and their enemies beheld them." Now, it's talking about the two witnesses that were slain and then raised from the dead. Now, the voice says, "Come up here." Now, that's not get out of there or leave the planet. That's come toward the voice. Now, when you go to Revelation 18:4, and this is really cool, it's talking about Babylon. That well-known verse, it says, "And I heard another voice saying from heaven, 'Come out of her, my people, that you're not partakers of her sins, and that you don't receive of her plagues.'" Now, for years, people have said, "Gee, is America Babylon? If it is, we better get out of here," right? You've heard that.
Right. Sure.
And I looked at this, so I thought, well, I'll just go look and see in the Greek what that word is. And it's in the second verse I was just reading there. The word is exerhoi in Greek. And when you translate that, literally, it means to take rise from, to proceed or emanate from. Now, if the voice in Revelation 18 is the same voice that was talking to the two witnesses, it's telling the people to come up out of, to take rise from, as the Greek says, out of Babylon. Now, this is before all the judgments hit Babylon in the 18th chapter. I'm thinking that what this is telling us is, Christian folks, bride, don't worry. We know that a lot of you are in hospitals or can't afford to leave the United States or this or that or go bush because there's nothing to go bush to. Don't worry, because you're going to be called up out of here. It's a command in Revelation 18. It says, come up out of her. And that's towards the Lord. That's not saying get out of Babylon. It's saying come up here. I'm sure that that's talking about the rapture now. And it's a kind of an encouraging thing for us to realize that whatever your financial situation or health or whatever, okay, you're going to be taken out of here before the judgments hit Babylon. And I think America, as we've discussed before, is, if not the major Babylon, it's a major part of Babylon of this age. And that's been something I want to be sure that I got to tell your listeners, because it is important that the church knows this throughout the world. Do not panic, He's calling us up out of. And it's an interesting thing in that Revelation 11 verse I read about the two witnesses being called to come up, to ascend up to heaven inside of a cloud. In Thessalonians, in 2 Thessalonians, where it talks about, and they that are alive shall be caught up in the clouds to meet with the Lord there forever. That translation can also be read to be caught up inside clouds, just as the witnesses are going to be caught up, the two witnesses. So I think that it's telling us that we are going to be surrounded by kind of a cloud of sparkling light, our spirit, soul, whatever leaves the body, and that will be caught up into the heavens to meet with the Lord. Not only us, but the two witnesses, and particularly us, as it mentions in 18:4 of Revelation, that we are to come up out of her, to arise out of her, up. What do you think about them apples?
Okay.
You go to the website there. Sorry.
Yeah.
Go to the website where it says show images.
Right.
And you can click on those white boxes there, and you can see the English, King James English, the Greek word, and then the definition of it on the right, exerhamai. And you'll see what I'm talking about. It says to take rise from, not get out of Dodge, but to get up, to take, to depart up. Encouraging.
Encouraging indeed. Now, would this be contingent, and pardon my ignorance on this, but would this be contingent on America being Babylon, or America being Babylon, or does that not matter?
Doesn't matter. It's all encompassing. Whatever Babylon is, whatever it is, where the church is dwelling within it, is where this message applies to, whether it be America, whether it be over in the Middle East or whatever. It's talking to the bride, and the bride is taken up out of Babylon before Babylon is destroyed and punished.
Okay.
And if that is going to happen, if that asteroid is going to strike or whatever is going to happen here in September is going to destroy America, then I think we're going to be leaving before that.
Interesting.
It's not date setting. It's just saying the season of. Now remember, the fourth blood moon of the Shemitah, this Shemitah, is September the 28th of this year, the blood moon. Now, remember Sir Isaac Newton, several hundred years ago, a brilliant mathematician and a devout Christian man, calculated from the book of Daniel when the beginning of the tribulation period would start. And his figures point to September the 23rd of this year. Within 5 days of the Shemitah, the last moon of this red moon of the Shemitah, Now, don't you think that is rather interesting coincidence?
Yes. Yeah. I was reading about that this weekend. His interpretation or his calculation, and that took me to the website of other people, some others who were looking at this and looking at the calculation itself and his calculation. There was some conversation. Did Sir Isaac Newton take into account the 360-year calendar? I guess he would have done,
because he was studying this 360-day year because he was in the book of Daniel, which was written back when they had 360-day years. You know, the lunar calendar, which is an even 360 days rather than the Gregorian calendar that we use now, where it's 365 days. So when you use that, it'll bring it back from 2016 to September the 23rd in 2015. Now, that's not saying it'll happen on that date, but it's so close to the fourth red moon, and it's so close to the time that asteroid or meteor is supposed to hit Puerto Rico. You know, you have to wonder.
That's true. That's true. And I find Newton's assessment of Daniel's prophecy extremely interesting when I was reading it. Now, Newton felt, and this is, correct me if I'm wrong here, that the significant portion of Daniel's prophecy was the destruction of the Second Temple by the Romans in AD 70. Now, is that correct, or is that? It's interesting you bring this up, because I was looking at this again this weekend and thinking, it was just very interesting. But the certain calculations.
The 69 weeks spoken of in Daniel, that's been completed. The 70th week, the last 7-year period, because Daniel was using weeks for years, is what is to be completed and is known as the tribulation period in the last days of this age. And that's what Sir Isaac was saying when he calculated from that, using other factors in the book of Daniel, is when he came up to September the 23rd, 2015. And I don't know whether that's European September 23rd or Israel or what, but it's in that neighborhood.
Okay, all right. I find it really interesting, especially in light of the blood moons, all of this. Yeah, indeed. Wow. Well, it certainly gives us something.
Economy, the world economy and various other things happening in the Middle East. I mean, look at the snub that happened to Obama. Sad for him, but the King Salman of Saudi Arabia told him he wouldn't attend the little conference that Obama wanted to hold in Camp David. So King Salman sends his successor, his heir he's appointed, Prince Salman, and another official over to meet with Obama. But it was a direct slap in the face, which tells you that the Saudis are very unhappy with what Obama is doing as far as his relations with Iran. And this deal down in Yemen, the conflict with ISIS in Iraq and other places, the conflict between Iran and Israel, all these things are tugging in different directions on all the world leaders. And I just see a very, very complicated future for this year.
Well, yeah, I totally agree with that. I found my notes from Sunday here when I was looking at this. It's so interesting you bring this up, because I didn't even expect you to bring this up at all. But if you look at September 23rd, I think it's the Day of Atonement. If I can read my own writing here. If you look at that day, it's the 266th day of the year, which is the exactly duration of a woman's pregnancy, 9 months. Okay, to the day almost. Well, to the day, not almost, to the day. If you take it to a lunar 9 months or 9 months. So that to me, that I thought, wow, when you compare it to the birth pangs of a pregnant woman in the end times and such, I just thought that was amazing.
Yes.
In and of itself.
Look, I mean, we can all pick up the newspaper or read on the internet, the daily news, and get depressed as all get out with all the crud that's happening around the world. It's the good news. To me, this is what I thought was kind of more important than anything to say tonight, was what you're not talking about, is this year we're getting out of here. It's just very, very strong evidence for that fact. Now, whether it's next year or not, who can say? But I'm saying right now, he is so near the Lord that you can feel it.
Well, definitely, and I think more and more people are feeling they're sensing something is coming. They're sensing things are off, and but we, regardless of when or whatever, to me, I just look forward to the fact that we know how this whole thing ends. It's not a game. We know how it ends, and we're truly victorious, and praise God for that. So we're already
absolutely
fighting a position from victory. So good. Wow, interesting.
Up
Very
the
good,
street
sir.
from us here in El Paso County, near Colorado Springs, we've got a bunch of sinkholes happening around the traps. Some near the Garden of Gods and in the roadways. So Colorado's now joined the ranks of Florida and the other states that are having sinkholes. It's spreading.
Wow.
And today was a pretty fierce day with earthquakes. We had Nepal get hit again, as they were hit a couple weeks back with a 7.8, I believe.
I don't think we talked about the Nepal earthquake, Stan.
Over 8,000 people died, and then today there's a 7.4, a 7.3, 7.4, and also a 6.8 in Japan.
That's just off the coast of Honshu there, south of the Fukushima stuff.
So,
wow.
Any concerns with this? I mean, Nepal getting hit twice here, but there seems to be a rise, and we talked about this a couple weeks back. The volcanic activity and the earthquakes seem to be on an incline across the world.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I'm particularly interested in that one in Nepal because I suppose you could say that this latest earthquake was an aftershock of the one last week, but I'm not sure. It may be leading to another larger series of quakes, which is unusual, but it can happen. The activity off the coast of Japan there in Honshu, that is part of a tectonic plate wannabe ridge that runs directly south of Honshu, halfway to Australia. And along there, we've been seeing reasonably significant earthquakes over the last week. And that's telling me that plate is now relieving some of its pressure. New Guinea, we've seen a number of earthquakes here in the last 30 days that were significant, over Richter 6. But the Nepal thing is interesting because it's part of the kind of fault line that runs through Indonesia from just north of Australia, right on up into India, into the Himalayas, of course, to Nepal, and is heading toward Europe and the Middle East. The scriptures do say that there will be one great earthquake toward the end of this age that will be the greatest one ever, and that means probably something like a Richter 10 that's going to shake the planet. And I just see the signs, as you're saying, of the volcanoes and the earthquakes increasing in intensity and frequency. Even though, like, if you were to look right now for the U.S. volcanoes, what the status of them is, well over half of them are just normal green activity, nothing happening. Only like 2 of the 10 or 11 that they monitor are active and on alert status, and those are Kilauea and Shishaldin. So even though they aren't major eruptions at the moment, these things are on the radar for USGS looking at what's happening in the States. But the rest of the world is not immune to that. I can see on our maps that I put up on the show images page what the last 7 days look like, but you can also click to the right of that and see what the last 30 days of earthquakes look like. Richter 4.5 or above. and you will see the same, basically the same red dots for Honshu and for Nepal, but you'll also see a lot of other circles, whites and yellows and oranges, depending upon the age, whether it's a week or whatever, and like older than a week, a month in this case, between a month and a week old, are all the white ones. And you can see that the top end over in the United States, up off the coast of Oregon, you see a white circle there. It's a big one. It's probably about a Richter 6 something, at the very top of the Juan de Fuca plate. And then one a little bit lower down there, about a Richter 5 some odd, at the very bottom of the Juan de Fuca plate. Now, what is kind of interesting is that by their absence, there are no really serious quakes other than those two on the west coast of the United States, while the western side of the Pacific is absolutely going berserk. Now, with the shaking going on by these things, we are not immune to those shock waves coming through the crust under the Pacific Ocean and shaking our coastline, which is locked at the moment at the Juan de Fuca plate, so that it's like a piece of rubber and another piece of rubber on top of them. You're trying to scoot them, and one of them is catching onto the bottom one, saying it just can't quite move until you've bent it far enough that the top rubber plate snaps forward. And it's just going to take a little nudge when it gets to that point, which is something we're approaching, I think, rather rapidly, because we are the only portion of the arc of fire of the Pacific that's not really doing any activity to relieve the pressure. It's building up. That's from the absence of these smaller relief quakes. Anyway, I think that we ought to keep an eye on that. And if you look at it, on that big map, the global map for the last 30 days, you see one little white dot, probably about a Richter 3, 4, I guess maybe about a 4.5, over in the middle of the Atlantic between the New England coast of the United States and the northwest coast of Africa, or Spain, Portugal, in that area. There's three little red lines which are plate tectonic borders, and right at the junction of them, not on one of them, but at the junction in the Azores, is a 4.5 earthquake. Now, it only shows one of those in the last 30 days on the USGS maps that we're looking at. But if you go to the first picture I put up on the second row of the quakes, you'll see what Portugal is measuring in that same area at the junction of these three tectonic plate borders. And there are a gazillion earthquakes there. I mean, in the last 45 days, if you look at that, I can't even count them. There's so many of them. They're smaller ones, but it's showing stress relieving at the junction of these three major tectonic plates. So what is going on? And this is, a question. At this point, I don't have an answer. And while all that's going on, look over at, in the third row there, which I talked about a couple weeks ago, but I want to mention it again, is it's kind of an orange picture called the anomalous heating changes in the sea surface of the Pacific between April 2006 and 2015. Now, what we're seeing there is something I had never seen since 1995 when I started measuring sea surface temperature variations, and it's a huge heating swell for El Nino, and we're in an El Nino year, but this one is exceptional. It is unique as far as I can tell, in that it's putting a huge amount of hot surface water rapidly over off the coast of Baja and all the way up into as far as Alaska. Now, to me, I know that's going to hold on for several weeks, months, of this current El Nino, which means it's going to produce anomalous snow, rain, flooding, that kind of stuff, and possibly lubricating earthquakes from there all the way across to New York. I'm not sure where it will stop, but we're already seeing the rain and the snow, anomalous amounts of it at this time this year. So keep an eye on that, because I think we're going to see more tornadoes from, probably the eastern portion of Colorado all the way toward the New England coast. And, of course, Pennsylvania, where you are, you're probably going to get more strange weather as well. So just keep an eye on that and know that it's due to this anomalous heating of the water off the west coast. And it's putting moisture up in the air that's being cooled in the rain or snow by gusts of air or fronts of cold air coming down out of Canada and a little bit from Alaska, shoving it toward the eastern and northeastern side of the United States. So keep an eye on that. That's another warning thing.
This anomalous heating changes map that you have here, I'm looking at this, and this is the same one I think you had in your show pages from April 30th, I believe, right? Is
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Now, in looking at this, specifically what you're referencing here, just so I'm clear on this, and then folks, you can go to HagmannHagmann.com, click on the show images page on the right-hand column underneath Stan's name and website, and you can get this, look at the same picture we're looking at here, either if you're listening by archive or listening live. But having said that, you just to be clear, you haven't seen what the extent, from Alaska down to Baja, or
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Normally, these things generate along the equator. They don't bend up toward the western coast of the United States like that. And it's easy to see that it's not where it belongs. If you look at that map, they're just northeast of Australia, where it's at 180 degrees in that little bright spot in the orange there. That's normally what gets bright red, bright orangey red from overheating or anomalous heating, and it extends to the right on the screen toward the minus 120, and it'll get fatter or thinner depending on whether it's an El Nino year or not. But it just does not normally, advance up the coast of the United States like that. That's the change in the heating, the anomalous heating of the sea surface in the last 9 years. It's rapidly pushed it up into the west coast. I don't know how long it's going to last, but it's interesting. And it goes, if you look at it, it goes right across the United States over off the coast of New York into the North Atlantic. You just follow that heat path through the United States. This is why we're getting these tornadoes and bad weather. I expect it's probably going to affect the hurricane season as well.
That was going to be my next question. What can we expect from June to December in terms of hurricanes? Because obviously the hurricanes are fueled by the ocean temperatures, right? I mean, that's a big part of it.
Yep.
Okay. I'm no meteorologist.
But with this anomalous heating, it's going to affect the buildup of these Pacific and Atlantic storms, and I'm not sure exactly how, but it's going to be a different season. Hey, speaking of that, the other morning Holly was out. We'd had a bit of snow here, and it's only been about a week or so, and she went out with the camera because she saw a rainbow forming over the Rocky Mountains, but it wasn't like a rainbow normally with all the colors. It was orange. And it was what we're calling, I guess, a nickname, a snowbow, because there was this orange streak of light that went down to the south of us and lit the roofs of some of the houses and turned them orange, following this orange rainbow that went up and then disappeared into the clouds over the mountains. Really a strange but beautiful-looking thing.
Wow. Okay, so what does, given the spectrum, the light spectrum, for a rainbow you've got red, orange, yellow, green, blue, violet, right?
Yep.
Okay, so if it's just merely orange, what does that signify, if anything?
Well, it signifies that the density of the air, moisture in the air between the sun that was just coming up over the east, obviously, was such that we only got that portion of the spectrum in the orange range between the red and the yellow, and the rest of it just was not bent down to where we could see it. It was probably visible if you went up higher or if you could get down in the dirt lower, but this was quite beautiful. It's just only one section of the rainbow colors. Wow.
All right. And it's my understanding that rainbows are visible only from a 42-degree angle. I think I learned that from you. Or
I don't know.
Okay.
Probably.
Anyway.
But see, and also you'll find that inside of a rainbow, in not the actual rainbow itself, but in the circle that it forms, inside there, the sky and the light is brighter than outside. So the light is bent into there by the water molecules in this case, illuminating it, but also separating it on the edges into the various colors.
Interesting.
I saw a story the other day. We had those Texas tornadoes, and there was a report that there was a tornado that was going in a clockwise direction, which is apparently I believe I have it right, which is apparently rare because they're usually counterclockwise.
Well,
does this have something to do with the El Nino, or what would cause the tornado to spin in the wrong direction?
Well, normally it's due to a couple of things, due to the Coriolis effects and also due to the electric charge. And most tornadoes have an electric component to them, where the host cloud is trying to discharge a huge amount of lightning and it can't find a bucket for it on the surface of the Earth. The capacity value underneath it is not enough to take that charge. So it shoots water molecules down at that place to transfer the charge. Now, when it does that, that's the inside of a tornado, and that charge goes, it's warm, charged air, goes straight down to the Earth, hits the Earth, spins around all the way back up to the host cloud around the outside of that initial down thrust of charged air. Now, for it to reverse like that, you're saying, well, okay, if the majority of the thing that formed that particular tornado was electrical, was there something in the air and the ground that reversed the charges so that it spun backwards? Or was it simply due to the forces, the tangential wind forces under that front that produced that? It is quite unusual. I mean, normally hurricanes and tornadoes spin in the same direction, whether it's the northerly spin above the equator or the southerly spin. They spin in their relative same directions as Coriolis forces do with water. But this is anomalous, and that's all I can think of that would have caused that.
Well, we're seeing so many things that, to me, are just that are amazing. My wife and I were, I think it was yesterday. The days just kind of run together. We just saw the headlines or a brief on the evening news. South Dakota, in one part, in the northern part, it was 18 inches of snow, I think, and then the southern part of South Dakota, you had a tornado 4 football fields wide.
And flooding.
Yeah.
Good grief.
You know, and we just looked at each other. You know, what's going on here? You know, it just seems the weather's not right. It is not correct, and you know, of course, the propensity for people to say, well, global warming. Certainly, there's climate change. Global warming, although, let me go back to the anomalous heating image in sea surface. Is this, and let me just be flat out, let me ask you, is this indicative of global warming, or is this just indicative of anomalous sea change temperature? I mean, you know, could this be used as evidence to support global warming?
Global warming, well, if you define global warming as politicians do, no. I mean, they're talking about, you know, cow gas and various other things that are human activity causing this warming. No.
Okay.
But if you're talking about changes in the sun and the Earth's magnetic field, yes. The sun, even though it's in a low sunspot number for this 24 sunspot cycle, it is producing a lot of flares and coronal mass ejections. It's just like a bubbling cauldron. Now, since our magnetic field is continuing to weaken day by day, it is weakening the shield that protects us from various radiation wavelengths from the sun and from interstellar sources. That means that we're getting more energy into our system, into the Earth, underneath the atmosphere, than, say, we did 50 years ago, and even 10 years ago. Now, that heating is due to direct infrared radiation. It is due to life forms, whether they be fauna or flora, absorbing various wavelengths, probably in the ultraviolet range, and turning that into heat by the process of their metabolism. And so the seas are heating. Obviously, we're seeing that. And the land is heating. The blame, the major villain in this, I think, is the sun. And its activity is enhanced by the weakening of our magnetic field, which is in the process, I'm reasonably certain at this point, of inverting, forming a north-south pole, in fact, 2 or 3 sets of them inside the planet, which is playing chaos with our clouds and the way they move, and hence the storms. We've been saying this for some time now, that what we can look for as we got deeper into this solar cycle, and the heat of the sun was absorbed more into the surface of the Earth, that we would see more violent, more erratic weather. More erratic weather across the planet, that we would have extremes of heat and cool, of dry and flood, which would create these terrible disasters. And it is happening, and it's going to intensify, I'm reasonably certain now, for the rest of this year at least.
Okay. Well, so we can expect a very roller coaster kind of weather forecast wherever we're at, wherever people are listening, and especially here in the United States. Well, yeah, okay. And the solar activity is what you're saying is primary here, if we were to.
I think so. I think so. Yeah.
Right.
It's the major source of heat in our system, and the amount of it that gets into the surface of the Earth is a function of how much is released from the sun and how much our shielding is failing.
Mm. And the magnetosphere, I've seen numerous reports from, anywhere from respected scientific journals to other, we'll just say regular people on the internet commenting and posting evidence of the, as you said, the magnetic field weakening.
But what does that mean, though? I mean, I know what the words mean, but what does that mean in practical terms?
Well, the Earth's magnetic field is primarily controlled or generated by spinning liquid metal core of our planet, nickel and iron. There are variations to that field by large iron deposits that aren't at the core but up closer to the surface that are now solid. That's the standard deviation you'll find on standard deviation maps from true north. But the electricity that comes to us from the sun hits the upper ionosphere and dives into the planet and then back out. And it forms the ionosphere, a layer of the atmosphere that holds charged particles and will keep them trapped for thousands of years. Now, that shielding area up there, the ozone layer, that area reflects certain wavelengths away from the Earth. And that area, that shield would not exist if we didn't have the strength of the magnetic field we do on the Earth at the moment. But since that is weakening, as it's going to invert, which is done before, it's going to turn upside down, that this process may take several weeks, months, years, but when it inverts like that, it goes to its weakest point, which makes the upper ionospheric shielding thinner and thinner, if not non-existent in certain portions of the Earth. That's what I'm talking about. If you don't have your shields up, then these various wavelengths will penetrate through the atmosphere and get to the surface and certainly change the heat absorption of plants and animals and the water and land. That's basically what I mean.
Okay. Wow. All right.
And I see on your show images page here the mystery lights on Ceres. The four pictures you have. Let's get into this a little bit, because I was reading some opinions, I guess you'd say, from people speculating on what this is, comparing it to other images. One image I saw that was real interesting was a satellite photo of Las Vegas put next to one of these pictures, and how similar it looked to, a city of all lit up in the desert. And obviously not a city that's on Sirius, but it did look kind of similar to that. But we've learned that these bright spots, it's not just one bright spot, it's two bright spots or multiple spots as the satellite gets closer. Are this gases? Could this be ice?
Well, they say... Yeah, well, all right. Look, the reason I put if you click that image, you'll see there's four pictures of Ceres as it's rotating, where it's showing the brightest of these spots inside of a large crater. And there are at least, 5, 6, maybe even 10, probably a lot more from what they said, bright light sources inside that particular crater. But now look at that. first thing that strikes me is that map you're talking about, that nightlight map of Nevada. If you look at that, it's dark. It's almost totally dark with lights coming from the street lights. Okay, that we can relate to. Here, it's not dark on Ceres. It's in the sunlight, and those lights are bright enough to be high contrast to this light surface. And if it were dark, it would burn a hole in the camera, the relative density of the light there. But they say, the scientists at NASA are saying, well, we don't know exactly what it is, but it's some kind of material, must be reflecting sunlight. Whoops. Have a look at those 4 images and tell me, why doesn't the light value, the brightness of it, change from the first photo on the left all the way to the 4th photo on the right, where those bright spots are on the left and right sides of that planet, or that, of Ceres as it spins? Those light sources should diminish or flicker with sunlight reflecting off of them if they change their attitude with respect to where the sunlight's coming from. But they don't. What does this mean? Those things are making the light that we're seeing. They're not just reflections. They are the source of the light. Now that then becomes another issue. Those lights are so bright and omnidirectional, I can't even see that they are casting shadows inside that crater. Mind you, the crater walls aren't big enough perhaps to do that, but it does appear as though those sources are like mounds, maybe not too high, but mounds of some kind of a material emitting light in all directions. If not, some sort of an advanced civilization producing light artificially. But it is definitely not some mirror reflection surface. It just does not behave that way if you look at those images.
Interesting. Yes, somebody should alert Fox News, their scientific department, to this, to your explanation here, because as of 10 hours ago, just exactly how you described it, what scientists are saying. They're sticking to that narrative, which doesn't make sense. Okay.
And if you enlarge some of these, by the way, they are a series of small circular light sources that glob in together to form a big light source. Particularly the 3rd photo over in that series, I'm sure, 3rd and 4th both. Look at it; you can see little tiny round dots forming the big structures. And they have said, even though they haven't released that photo that I've seen, if you zoom down into those light sources, which they're going to do in the next pass of the Dawn satellite, if you zoom down into that, you would see that those light sources down there are made up of a bunch of little circular spots. Not ridges, not oblong-shaped lakes of mercury or something like that. They are a sum of a bunch of little lights all clustered together there, and they're so bright that they're just washing out the picture image in that area.
I see that, yeah. Well, it kind of makes me think, too, of, and again, folks, if you go to HagmannHagmann.com, or in fact go to StanDeyo.com, but click on the link to the Prophecy Watchers, with Stan, the interview with Gary Stearman on Prophecy Watchers. Watch that interview. But it made me think of that interview, and of course the coming alien deception that you referenced, and I'm just wondering is this part of that whole? I mean, looking at this as a bigger picture here, could this be just one more conditioning phase of things, or what do we, how does this all?
Well, I guess it could be. I hadn't thought about that, but yeah, I mean, it could be.
Yeah, I'm just trying to get the bigger picture kind of scope of things, and once more, once again, the marvelous job you did on Prophecy Watchers explaining the cosmic conspiracy, the wide angle view of this. It just seems like every time we turn around here, we're just getting inundated with mysteries, planetary mysteries.
It's turning our attention out toward they coming to invade or be friends or whatever, but it is doing what you're saying.
Yeah, and it's again, I find the timing rather interesting too, with respect to this year, September. Of course, talking with others, including like people like Tom Horn and stuff, talking about the Vatican Observatory and all of this. Man, it's really mind-boggling when you look at the bigger picture of things and thinking, what's going on, and of course, your description of the Greys. I don't know. I just, I'm just throwing things out because it just seems like really things are coming together pretty quickly. We're approaching something pretty quickly.
Well, we've been educated. Our generation, has been the one that's seen a huge increase in knowledge, and the internet certainly has been a major factor in that. But before this generation, if you were talking about little green men being part of a satanic deception landing on Earth, especially if you were doing it from the pew and not most of the churches, they'd fire you. They'd run you out of town and tar and feather you. But now then you can actually discuss these things freely in a lot of churches that are looking at prophecy and trying to analyze what it means. But it could never be accepted by people until this generation, where we, as a populace around the planet, know more about science and the world around us. And, of course, with all the abduction cases, that helps as well. But, I mean, it's just this thing on series, it's really a mystery. I've enjoyed looking at that and, poking around trying to figure out what in the world is going on. And I'm sure a lot of other people are. But you and I and those who know better will not be misled if that turns out to be an advanced civilization, an alien base, or whatever. It's just part of the conditioning. That's what they end up telling us. But I'm looking more closely to home. That's what's happening here with UFOs and sightings, and the Vatican interest. Is not only in objects out there, but in beings and advanced races and aliens that can be baptized and that kind of stuff. So, yeah, it's just
well, yeah,
really an interesting time.
Yeah, it is. We have an emailer from Nancy from North Dakota, wanting your opinion. She recently heard, and this is kind of, we're talking about space and planets and celestial bodies or bodies in space, but the rings of Saturn. She wants to know from you what the rings are composed of, and is there anything special about the rings that, with respect to ancient? I'm reading through here. It's kind of a lengthy question with respect to ancient gods, and I'll leave it at that. The rings of Saturn.
The rings of Saturn are, as far as I know, composed of various types of minerals of varying densities, mass densities. Some are probably ice chunks, but there are a lot of chunks of stuff like rock and other ores and things around Saturn. And there are other planets. I think Uranus even has a small set of rings. So and Jupiter might have some sort of sign of that way out from the core of the planet. But the point is that as a planet develops and then ages, it forms and then it ages and runs down, it throws off shells of debris off of the surface of a planet that form these spinning rings that eventually break up as the planet ages and the next surface layer breaks up and leaves the surface of the planet and forms a new set of rings. In our case, we're not big enough to support a ring structure, and not even Mars or Mercury, Venus. All of them are small like we are. And these smaller inner planets will not form rings because of their relative size to the sun and to the space around as far as the density of them. But that's what they are. You'll find that there are bands in between these orbiting pieces of debris off of, say, Saturn, and those bands are formed by the movements, the harmonic movements of these chunks of rock as they are affected by the moons of Saturn, and they tug and push on this on the rings or on that debris cloud to form distinct rings. And I think that the formation occurs so that one ring will have a certain mass density of rock in it, and the next one will have a different one, and so forth, because of the gravitational separation by the what's called the perturbation of the satellites around Saturn. I hope that's not too technical.
But yeah, and as I was reading down through this her email, just wanting to know if there's any ancient connection to ancient civilizations, ancient god-like creatures, civilizations recorded, about the rings of Saturn. In other words, are they associated with the origination of godlike creatures here on Earth? That was the second part of the question.
Well, that's a hard thing to answer, and I do know that Arthur C. Clarke, when he wrote the 2001 book, he did portray God as a being that stored his memories in rings around the planet that he lived on, a big super planet type thing or a star. But the God's memories and knowledge and all that was stored in these rings outside of his home planet, which is not true, of course. But it was an interesting parallel to what she wrote about. I wonder if she read the book, actually.
I'm not sure. It was kind of I looked at the question. I thought, wow, interesting question. I never really gave that a thought. That's so. Perhaps that's where she got that. Milo, listening live just outside of Florence, Italy. Interesting. Got to be pretty late there, early there, whichever. Wanting to know about the sun. You mentioned about the sun activity. Does this affect the neutrinos of the sun? Neutrinos that are going through the Earth, and if so, how? I'm not even sure I understand the question.
What is he asking? What affects that?
The sun activity does the current sun activity affect? Is that affecting the level of
in fact, as far as I know, the neutrino count is down over what has been typically measured in these underground facilities that they use to measure neutrino penetration from the sun. The nuclear chemistry, the nuclear reactions inside the sun are definitely changing. This is not speculation since at least 1992. It has been well known within the astronomical physics community that the sun is changing its nuclear reaction. It's producing wavelengths of light coming out of it never had before, which means that there are subatomic reactions going on that they never predicted or knew about. Now, that the internal reactions inside the sun, according to prevailing wisdom, occurred, some of the deep reactions occurred over 10,000 years ago, and they're just now, the results of these reactions are just now appearing on the surface of the sun as spiraling ropes of magnetic fields that form sunspots and coronal mass ejections and things like that. So what we're seeing may have been caused thousands of years ago in conventional physics in the core of the sun, and that's why we're seeing a change in the neutrino count. We definitely don't want to see a large increase in neutrino count, and density, because that can kill you. Right.
Okay. That's all right. Wow.
That's what they call a real estate bomb. The Israelis have certainly gone in that direction with their nuclear weapons. It's a bomb that puts out neutrinos, and it leaves the buildings and trees intact, but it kills, life, living organisms within the kill radius.
Is that more commonly called a neutron bomb, or is that what the?
Yeah.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
All right, that makes sense. Wow, I feel a lot more intelligent now after. Thanks, Milo, for that, and thanks, Stan, for that answer. Okay, I get it now. Wow, man. All right, so all the way from Ceres to Saturn to the Sun and back again. Interesting. Yep.
Yeah, we've wandered around a bit, but there you go. That's what happens on Tuesday nights.
That's right. And I'll tell you, Stan, we've got really one of the most well-informed audiences, I believe. I mean, to be asking questions like that, yeah, we certainly have some people that really know what's, at least I believe, would know what's going on. So it's great that they have the ability to reach out and ask you these questions and for you to answer them. Appreciate that.
Anything you want to hit on, Stan, that we didn't get a chance to talk about?
Yeah. No, that's probably about it. I will correct one thing I said about your neutron bomb. The neutrinos are a byproduct of the neutron bomb, which throws out a bunch of neutrons, which are very, very strong and do not react with magnetic fields too easily, but they can be directed. But the neutrinos are a low-mass subatomic particle that is produced by a neutron bomb in this particular case. I just wanted to clarify that.
Yeah, let me just ask you this again, because I'm trying to picture. I'm trying to picture what this would be like, a neutron bomb. I mean, you said real estate bomb. It leaves buildings intact, but it kills life. I mean, how?
Yeah, it may hit some vegetation as well, but what it does, it produces ionizing radiation, and when it strikes, and I suppose it would probably depolarize the electrical system in living beings, and their hearts would stop, and they just drop over dead.
Wow!
It'd leave you a bit of a cleanup detail, but and in the initial blast radius, I mean, there would still be damage in that area to structures, but in the main, these neutrons, I mean, a neutron can travel through 10,000 light years of lead, before it slows up. It's a neutron's polarity is just almost neutral. That's why it's called a neutron, and it's the density of this that creates the havoc in living systems. So after a few miles from the blast point, the density of the neutron field being emitted is spreading out and will not cause as much damage to living tissue. And then, further out, it doesn't cause any damage. We get hit by neutrons, all the time, but not in concentration.
Not like, okay. My goodness. Just to think of the possibility. And one more, actually 2 different emails from 2 different people wanting to know your thoughts about the possibility, whether man-made or as a byproduct of some solar event of an EMP. You've talked about this before, this EMP type of 1 second after. You've talked about this before on our program. Has your thoughts on the potential for an EMP event gotten stronger? Your feelings about the potential for an EMP gotten stronger since, we'll say, the beginning of the year?
Yeah, definitely. It's just watching the flares, the just boiling off of the surface of the sun. It's just really dense this year. And, there have been a couple of coronal mass ejections and flares that, if they'd have been named straight at Earth, would have created a Carrington-type shutdown of our electronics on the planet with an EMP pulse. Understand that people are afraid of an atomic bomb being used by the enemy coming up 150 miles over the country, detonating, and generating an EMP, electromagnetic pulse that kills all of our electronics and fries computers and this and that. And they've been worried about that, but understand that one of these EMP fronts coming from the sun can be between 100 and 1,000 times stronger than that bomb. And that kind of an EMP would disable everybody's equipment except really hardened, military stuff underground.
And one of the 2 emails here, wanting to know from you if you believe that's why there's this move by our military into the back into the Cold War mountainous protective areas I don't know whether you've heard that or not.
Well, they've allocated a budget of $700 million to move NORAD and Space Command stuff back into the mountain there, Cheyenne Mountain in Colorado Springs. Allegedly, in the news report, to make better shielding for EMP pulse type warfare for their antennas and various other communication devices they have or want to have at that place. But I tell you right now, what existed originally there in Cheyenne Mountain was enough shielding. I mean, you're looking at a lot of feet of, thousands of feet of granite. That's enough shielding to shield you inside there. As far as your antennas and external devices, why do you have to go deeper into the mountain and build more, holes or caves that you put equipment and people into? It doesn't add up that you're spending $700 million just to shield the communication stuff from EMP. I think that they're doing it in addition to that for continuance of government, the COG, to have places to take politicians to protect them in case of war, so we can have a continuance of government.
Do you believe that, and this is my question now, do you believe that continuity of government protection for the continuity of government, do you believe that to be as a result of a civil war type scenario, or are you thinking perhaps of a foreign type of invasion?
I would think it's more for foreign type invasion and celestial events. Those are, earth-shaking, life-extincting events. Civil wars are, usually you can handle that with troops on the ground, whether they be American troops or, NATO troops or United Nations troops or whatever. Those kind of things you can control people with reasonably comfortably. But meteor impacts that, take us to the edge of extincting humanity and other life forms, those kind of things require deep underground bases, the DUMBs.
Understood.
Yeah.
So they're prepping, or they're, as we say, they're fixing for something big. It looks like something like an extinction level event, or something major, a little bit bigger than civil unrest here in the United States.
Yeah, I think so. Hey, listen, on a lighter note, I sent you a link in the Skype texting thing there, and it's to a video. And I don't expect you to be watching it right now, but you might share that with your listeners in your chat room, because it is a video where an Asian Indian physicist gives you video representation. They've actually taken videos at over 1 billion frames a second, 1 billion with a B, where they are almost as fast as the speed of light. They actually show a light photon package going through a bottle of Coca-Cola filled with water in slow motion. Now that is astounding. That's the fastest, and this camera can actually take pictures around corners by some software that reorganizes or puts back together the reflected photons of something hiding around the corner, and it is illuminated with light, and it shoots its photons at a door and a wall and stuff and bounces back out into the camera. And you see the image that this camera can, at this point in its infancy, take of a guy sitting in a chair in a room where you can't even see except the light reflecting off of a wall coming through the doorway in front of the guy. And they show bullets and various other things like that. But to have a camera so fast that it is fast enough to almost stop a light photon in transit, that's interesting.
Wow. Okay, I post that in the chat room, and I'll watch that later.
Yep.
Thanks for that link.
It's for fun.
All right. Well, Stan, thank you very much. I mean, we've done it. We've gone through an hour. Very interesting from the first moment to the last moment. Very interesting. A lot of ground covered, indeed. A lot of space covered too. But geopolitics to who knows? I mean, wow. But thank you very much for your time tonight. Appreciate that, and I'm glad I'm glad you're here Tuesday nights, every Tuesday night, folks. Stan Deyo, the real Indiana Jones, and of course, catch him on Prophecy Watchers. Just go to Deyo.com and talking about his book Cosmic Conspiracy. And folks, if you don't have his book Cosmic Conspiracy, please grab it. It's just the amount of information Stan covers is incredible. And you know something, when I watched and you might have told me this, I did not realize I didn't realize the book, the Cosmic Conspiracy book, your intent to write it originated like in 68, you said, and then you wrote it in 78, or 69, then you wrote it in 78. I didn't realize that for whatever reason.
Well, in 1969, I had a near-death experience, and after coming out of that, in kind of a daze, that very morning as I was having breakfast, I was doodling on a napkin a book titled, The Creation Conquest, Flying Saucers that were heading toward the Earth. This is what I was drawing on that napkin just after I got back in my body and woke up and was, having breakfast. And it would be 8 and a half years after that I would find myself no longer in Dallas, Texas, but in Australia, and writing a book called The Cosmic Conspiracy. I've left the first 200 pages as they were, as I wrote them then. The extra 100 pages are things I've added as the decades passed that were important to put into that book. And so if you got the first copies of the book, the first 200 pages of the current version are the same, just with, extra goodies on it. And I think the last thing I added in 2010, which is the last time I'll update the book, was on the reinterpretation, retranslation of just 8 verses in the book of Daniel and how it affects, or how it reflects the great deception with Satan and the angels and flying saucers and what it all means there.
Fantastic read, too. Very good. Very great.
Well, thank you, Stan, for your time and another great week. We appreciate it, and until next time, God bless you and Holly.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, brother.
I'll tell her she's sitting here across the way. She's waving. And it's a friendly wave. It's not even an angry fist. Hey, yes.
Well, that's good. And I've got to tell you, and let me just say this. I want to publicly thank both Stan and Holly. My goodness, what a great, well, actually, more than Stan and Holly, they're two other members of their family, Jaysbo and
Bella.
Yeah, thank you. Of course, Lady, our studio dog, 4 paws up, got a package from Stan and Holly and just went crazy over the snacks that you folks sent. And I got to tell you,
well, we didn't, and our 4-leggeds sent that package.
Well, yeah, they have amazing typing capabilities, by the way. So,
don't they?
Yeah, I'm telling you. Well, thank you so much, and God bless
All right,
you.
Nice. God bless you. See you next week, Lord willing.
Amen.
All right. With that, we're going to go to a commercial break. That was Stan Deyo from standeyo.com. He is with us every Tuesday, and we're going to take our break now. We're going to come back on the other side with some more news, a few phone calls, and some important information for ladies and gentlemen, to our final 40 minutes on this Tuesday edition of the Hagmann Hagmann Report. We're going to be taking your phone calls at 661-244-9839. So get on hold now. Greg Jackson will be joining us on Thursday. He's going to be talking about judicial supremacy, and we're going to play a quick audio clip called Same-Sex Marriage Illegal, Immoral, and Unconstitutional. Here it is.
The following is an editorial by author and moral activist Greg Jackson. No court, legislative body, or majority of the people possesses the moral, legal, or constitutional authority to redefine what God Almighty Himself has already explicitly defined, ordained, and instituted. Words have meaning and can't be arbitrarily redefined. Marriage is and always has been the union of one man and one woman. Period. Any attempt by the Supreme Court to rearrange marriage would be legally null and void, not law of the land, and must be rejected and ignored as a legal nullity it would be by every individual sovereign state in the Union. Abraham Lincoln's position was clear on the immoral and unconstitutional Dred Scott opinion, which declared black people as being less than fully human. In his inaugural address in 1861, President Lincoln said, quote, "I do not forget the position assumed by some that constitutional questions are to be decided by the Supreme Court, nor do I deny that such decisions must be binding in any case upon the parties to a suit as to the object of that suit. While they are also entitled to very high respect and consideration in all parallel cases by other departments of the government, and while it is obviously possible that such decision may be erroneous in any given case, still the evil effect following it, being limited to that particular case, with the chance that it may be overruled and never become a precedent for other cases, can better be borne than can the evils of a different practice. At the same time, the candid citizen must confess that if the policy of the government upon vital questions affecting the whole people is to be irrevocably fixed by decisions of the Supreme Court, the instant they are made in ordinary litigation between parties and personal actions, the people will have ceased to be their own rulers, having to that extent practically resigned their government into the hands of that eminent tribunal," unquote. How dare any American elected officials even dignify something as unconstitutional, immoral, and ludicrous as so-called same-sex marriage?
You know, to supplement that, folks, go to Salt and Light Brigade, not associated with Greg Jackson, but Coach Dave Dobbenmeyer. We all want to serve our purposes, earthly purposes here, to advance, to boldly stand for righteousness, don't we? We want to stand for righteousness. Greg Jackson's coming on. He's going to talk about how we can push back and how we have to ignore this unconstitutional, what we believe to be the ruling that's coming. It will be in favor of granting special rights. These are my words, not to the homosexual union, advancing the homosexual agenda. Of course, this will bring judgment upon us quicker. We have to repent. But join the brigade, Salt and Light Brigade. That's saltandlightbrigade.org. Coach Dave Dobbenmeyer, it's his initiative, folks. Be part of the team. You can also go to ptsalt.com, as in pass the salt, ptsalt.com, and sign up there. We need the people, and we need the Army, Air Force, the SWAT teams, as it's broken down. You can read it at ptsalt.com and Salt and Light Brigade. But be part, be the salt and the light, and let's push back. This is all now. We are on the offensive now. We have entered our bunker in our new studio, and we're on the offensive, and we plan to march righteously forward and boldly stand for righteousness. And let's do it together.
All right, we're going to go to the phones. We're going to go to Jack out in Washington. He's been doing some research on Jade Helm and a few other topics, and it's some interesting stuff he's been finding out. Jack, welcome to the show.
Hey, Joe. Hey, Doug. How you doing?
Great. What's up, Jack? What's your research telling us? What do we need to know, buddy?
Well, I'm going to bring everything Stan was talking about. I'm going to talk about government conspiracy. This is huge, you guys. This is huge. You know, when I just got into this research, I was like everybody else. You know, this is not real. This is not real. No, this is poo-poo. This is woo-woo. And, you know, and I backed away from it, and I backed away, and I come back again, and then I said, no, there's nothing here prophetic. There's nothing here biblical. I can't tie nothing into this. And then I found, and then one day, about 4 or 5 days ago, I found this video, and I seen this guy's name, and I knew this guy's name. But the Holy Spirit spoke to me. He said, you got to write in, because I'm looking for something to search. I'm through with this other search, the one I'm getting ready to talk about. I'm through with this. I don't want to go back to it. And he says, no, you got to write in, here it is, Planet X, 2015. Write it in. write it in. No, I don't want to do this. There's nothing there. There's nothing biblical. It's just science and astronomy, and I'm done with this. He says, no, go look at this. So I scroll down and I find this guy's name under this video, and I know this guy's name. And I said, who is this guy? So I click on the video. It's an hour and 43 minutes. I listen to it, and it's a Christian talk radio show. I had to do the search on it, and it comes up. It's Steve Leidick is the host of the show, and he's interviewing Gil Brossart. And he's laying this all out in a timeline. Of course, come to find out they're assembly people, and that's pre-tribulation, and there's date setting, and he's rapture setting, and it just, I watched this thing like 3 times, and it just didn't click to me until I went and did the search on these 2 guys. Anyway, come to find out, I'm thinking, okay, this is the wrath of Satan. I mean, this is the wrath of God. But no, a day later, this is all running through my mind, and I'm thinking, no, this is not. It's not. And then Scripture just started pouring at me, and then all this government stuff that's been going on for the last 10 years, including Jade Helm, this is all cover. This is all cover for Planet X, Nibiru.
Okay. In your research,
That's the reason for all the strange weather. Look, this small galaxy is coming into our galaxy. The governments know this. That's why they're underground with their bases, with all the food storage, and they're stocking up on ammo up here, because when this gets disclosed, this world is going to go into chaos.
Would they disclose
I mean,
Jack?
Some serious chaos. What?
Would they disclose it? In other words,
they wouldn't disclose it. They can't disclose it.
Okay.
But they're going to pull a false flag to bring in a martial law. They got to. Because once this sun shows up in the southern hemisphere and everybody sees it, the gig's up. It's done. Everybody's going to know it. And you're going to know why. And Jade Helm is just nothing more than just a practice run for martial law. That's all it is. But it's in every state.
Yes,
it's not just 7 states. It's bigger than what you think.
And we've been saying that since day one. Yeah.
Exactly. And that's what they're doing. They've been doing this, brothers. They've been at this. They've known this since 1979. This is crazy, man. This is real. This is not mytho. I thought it was mytho in the beginning. I put it away.
Jack, what happened in 79? What happened in 79 that makes you say that?
Apparently, look, listen to me. They've got Russia has an observatory. China has one. The UK has one. The United States have one. Guess where it's at? They're all down in the Antarctic. And what are they looking at? What do you think they're looking at? It's not been talked about. They're looking at it. It's coming at us. We're already feeling the sorrows. This is the wrath of Satan, I'm telling you. This is how this gets ushered in. This is how this all comes full circle. I'm telling you. This is how this happens. This is just my mind's just turning.
Interesting.
Any thoughts on a timeline or when we should expect?
You know what? I've looked at that too, and there's one thing that they all seem to have in common on a date. Now, they can't get the year right. I've got 2015, I've got 2016, 2017. But one thing they do have in common is December 1st. And now this is astronomers and scientists. Huh?
That's a new one on me, Jack, December 1st. Where does that come from?
That's their timeline, and it seems to be a common factor in just about everyone I've listened to or I've searched and read. Wow. This seems to be a common date with all of these guys. Why December 1st? I don't know. I haven't got that far yet.
Okay. All right. Wow. Well, very interesting.
There's a lot here yet to break down. It's just I've got to backtrack some of these videos. Some of it's disinformation. If I find somebody that I can't go backtrack, it's disinformation. So you got to be careful with this. There is stuff out there that's disinformation. I get that. But you got to do, that's like I did on this last video. I watched it 3 times, but it didn't click in me because here this guy is date setting and raps are setting, and I'm thinking, oh, my, what is this? Oh, I remembered that the host city was Assembly. So I went and did a doctrine search, and I already knew, was pretty sure they were pre-trib. They are. And so apparently Gil Brossard is pre-trib, and that's basically what he was saying, but I came away with it as the wrath of God, and I thought, wait a minute, Jack, that can't be. Why? If it's coming that soon, that means tribulation is here, right? Where's tribulation? We don't have a new world order in operation. We don't have a one world currency. We don't have the temple built in Israel. Their timeline's off. So we're not in the tribulation. But it's funny that China has named Nibiru the dragon planet. Where do you see dragon and what does it line up to in the Bible? The dragon.
Well,
Satan.
Yeah.
With the long tail.
Oh,
it's the dragon planet with the long tail. This tail, listen, this is a small galaxy. It's coming into our galaxy. It's being pulled in by Uranus, Saturn, with their magnetic poles. They're pulling it in. It's coming in. It's coming into our orbit. And it's going to show up with the sun first. The sun will be first. Then it's followed by 2 moons. And then it's followed by Nibiru with a tail of dust.
All right.
So this is coming. So this ties everything together. Everything this government's been pulling. I'll even step out on the line here and say, they're spending this money. Look, in 2009, our debt clock was what, 8 trillion? We're 5 years from that, and it's double that.
Yes, more than double. More than double. Yep.
Almost.
Listen, that's not just us. Look around the world. All the world's currencies are just they're just burning it up as fast as they can. Why? Now I know why. You know that feeling that nagging feeling that you had inside you, and you knew something's coming, but you just didn't know what. This is it. I'm telling you. All your weird weather. Look, this little small galaxy is pulling on the axis of this Earth. That's what's going on, and that's the reason for your strange weather, your sinkholes, all of it. It's busted the core open. It's busted the Earth's crust open, and it's spewing out poisonous gas. That's what's killing all the fish. It's washing up. This is all. Everything I'm talking about goes right back to Planet X. And it's coming, folks. It's coming. I'm telling you. I thought it was myth in the first, but the more I got into this, the more I looked, the more I backtracked, the more I know this is real. This is real, and this ties everything that they're doing right into it. And why? And they're not going to tell you. They can't disclose it. The only way you're ever going to find out is when you get up in the morning and you see 2 suns out there. One in the south and one in the east. Then you'll know. We're in a world of trouble.
Wow. Well, Jack, thanks for your research. Keep researching and keep us posted as to what you find. And we'll just keep an eye on this. Man.
You think it's believable? You think I'm believable?
Well, I mean, I believe that you've found documentation. We believe you found documentation that supports your theory. You know, the thing about the Planet X is, You know what, Jack? I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I don't know. I have not researched what you have, so I don't know. That's as honest as I can be. As far as I'm concerned, Planet X, you know, I've heard you talk about this. Joe, we had the gentleman, I'm trying to remember, oh goodness.
Bob Fletcher?
Thank you, Bob Fletcher, on talking about this. Senior moment there, Jack. Sorry about that.
Yeah, he brought me back into this. That's when I had quit, and I heard him on Coast, and I went back into it again, and the Holy Spirit just keeps taking me back here, man. And I'm just like,
well,
you know, I didn't want to do it. I have no interest in astronomy and science. Get me out of this. There's nothing biblical here until I put it together.
Well,
now
it's interesting. I think we'll you know, keep us posted as to your findings, and you know, folks. I mean, it is what it is in terms of you know, the potential. I mean, Jack, I look, I don't know. I mean, I know what Bob Fletcher says.
Know.
You know, I know what you're saying. Regardless, we know something is coming, right? I mean, we know it doesn't take it doesn't take an astronomer or it doesn't take anyone special to really understand something. We're headed for something very life altering. You know.
Yeah, it's coming.
It's so yeah. All right,
so
brother.
We'll know. Okay.
All right, man.
Good talk, Jake.
Appreciate the call, Jake. Have a good night.
Goodbye. Bye-bye.
All right. I want to play a quick audio here. I forgot I uploaded this audio, and then we'll go back to the phone calls. This is the president made some comments today on pushing a narrative that people... Who? The president.
Who?
The renegade in chief.
Thank you.
Just take a listen to this. He says something very interesting in here.
I think the effort to suggest that the poor are sponges, leeches, don't want to work, are lazy, you know, are undeserving, got traction. And look, it's still being propagated. I mean, I have to say that, you know, if you watch Fox News on a basis, it is a constant menu. They will find, like, folks who make me mad. I don't know where they find them, right? They're all like, I don't want to work. I just want a free Obama phone or whatever. And that becomes an entire narrative, right, that gets worked up. And you very rarely do you hear an interview of a waitress, which is much more typical, who's raising a couple of kids and is doing everything right but still can't pay the bills. And so if we're going to change how John Boehner and Mitch McConnell think, we're going to have to change how our body politic thinks, which means we're going to have to change how the media reports on these issues and how people's impressions of what it's like to struggle in this economy looks like, and how budgets connect to that. And it's a hard process because that requires a much broader conversation than typically we have on the night.
All right. We're going to have to change how the media reports things. That was the quote that I heard that stuck with me. And actually, Breitbart did an article on this. If you want to read a write-up, apparently on this, I have not read it yet. But he talks about, you know, we're going to have to change the way or how the media reports. And it just made me think of the FEC and the net neutrality.
Yeah.
And the talk about censoring or changing the way conservative media on the internet, as they say, has been, you know, they believe that there's an unfair advantage because the ability for so many people, anybody who wants to start their own website or start their own show, there's too many voices out there and they're mostly conservative, and the mainstream media has been dismantled by these differences of opinion. So, you know, they want to consolidate these voices, and they want to make sure that they control the narratives and they control what and how is what's put out there and how it's presented.
Well, I'll say this. It was before Florida, before the Prophecy in the News Conference, before we left for Florida, that I got the word that you better dig in if you want to be relevant. If you want to be relevant after, if you want to be on, if you want to still be broadcasting, if you still want to be providing people with information, if you want to be effective and relevant, if you want to survive what's coming. And I'm not talking about some calamitous event, but I'm talking about the changes with the FEC, net neutrality, in all of its iterations, in all of its different formations. Then you better dig in and start preparing for options. You better keep your options open. That was the word I got from somebody within our government. I'm not going to say agencies or anything because I can't give you the name of the person, so I'm not going to give you the agency or anything, but I respect this person enough to take him at his word.
All right. Yeah, very interesting comments. Let's go back to the phones. We're going to go to area code 248. 248, you're live on the Hagmann Hagmann Report.
Hey, Joey, Doug, how you doing, guys?
Good. What's up?
Good. I wanted to say, last time I called in, I didn't really get a chance to thank you guys. You really gave me, you really got me pointed in the right direction one day. I stumbled on your show and was like, I don't know who you had on. I can't think whether it was McGuire or maybe Pastor Langford. One of them you had on there, and I stopped dead in my tracks, listened to the whole show, and been listening ever since. And I wanted to thank you for going on the air there because, I mean, you really changed the path of my life. Really is good stuff.
Can I ask your first name?
Paul.
Okay, Paul. Can I just say this? I don't think we did that. I think you did that, and we were merely.
You gave me the materials.
Yeah. But you know what? You were open to it, and God bless you, man. I mean, I'll tell you something. That gives us. That makes us feel really good, but give yourself a lot of credit because you were open to it and you did it for yourself. But and I'm just glad we were able to help. I guess that's kind of my position.
No, it's like your whole little network is just a real valuable tool for anyone who's wanting to make a change. And it just happened to be just a perfect timing that day. I actually, it's been years, so I can't tell you exactly what show it was, but I've been on you guys ever since, and boy, you guys just do a great job putting it together.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, you do an awesome job. Now, as far as things are going, like the way things are going in this country, it's like, man, what really snapped me out of it, I think, was 9/11. When I seen that, I looked at that, and just being a basic, tradesman who's familiar with metal or just not even just common sense, but a little bit of slight bit of physics and science involved, and I seen that, and I said, there's no way did that just happen. Something else happened. And it snowballed from there, and with some of the guests you've brought on and some of your callers, everything just added up, and I did call you guys one time. I talked to your son, Joe. I don't know if you remember me telling you that I told you that I really didn't think Obama was going to leave office peacefully anyway.
Oh, okay. Yes. And that chapter has yet to be written,
I mean, if there is martial law, he stays. Is that correct? He stays in office.
Well, it's my okay. That's a great point, Paul. I was well, Joe and I were doing research and trying to dig down into what would happen if a state of emergency was declared on a national level. What happens? Does it make Congress irrelevant? How long is that national emergency or martial law good for, and so on? Okay. And I'm not clear, and I'm not sure, Joe, if you're clear on the findings, but I do believe that...
I think one president did stay during a national event during history. I can't remember exactly the event, but it was a war or something. One president did stay put.
Okay, if that's the case, I haven't found that. However, I'm not going to discount that, but because I'm not a professor of American history. However, I'll say that I do believe, based on the various changes that were made via executive order, that the elections, the federal elections across the board, can be suspended for a period of, I believe it's up to 90 days, or the congressional approval or congressional action has to be implemented at some point. The Congress has got to come in and say, okay, the commander-in-chief or the person in the Oval Office can, in fact, declare an emergency. However, Congress has got to act during a specific period of time. That's my understanding, based on the current state of the executive orders and the continuity of government. Now, beyond that, I'm not sure of the exact time.
No, see, that's what I had said that the day that I called. I said, Obama, he's liable to pull something like that and have, the continuity of government. He could have a whole other set of his guys on his side who doesn't care what Congress says or the people think to run the whole show. He could boot everyone else off.
Well, that's true.
Could happen.
Yeah, and it's very true. And I remember the call. I remember that conversation, Paul, although I was not part of it. I think, like you said, you talked to Joe, but it's... But
he could pull something as far as anything. There could be even a nuke attack. There could be a war. There could be an invasion. Now there could be massive ISIS hysteria in this country. I mean,
sure.
Geez, Pete, they've had enough time to get in here and set up shop. I mean, I live up here in the Detroit area. I mean, you drive around down here in these industrial subs, and there's 5, 10, 30,000 square foot factories that there's nothing going on there. They're all boarded up, but it seems like there's a lot of vehicles there, but they're shut down. They went out of business. Who knows who's taking those over? I mean, there could be anything going on. They give these guys, these enemies of ours, the reins to set up shop here in this country, and all it takes is just when they get their numbers balanced, someone blows the whistle. It could just get ugly quick here.
Yeah, and I believe, Paul, Detroit is... You look at Detroit and you're looking at the future of America. That's not
it's just trashed.
Yeah.
And I've seen it happen right in front of my eyes, Geez, I mean, I was born in 1963, so I got a couple years on most people. But from when I was a kid from Detroit till now, I've seen this whole country just, not even just Detroit, everywhere, just change right in front of my eyes. And I look back at it, I'll tell you, man, I put my head on my pillow, I could just cry for days. What the hell happened?
Look at New York City over the last couple of years. Look at New York City, and for those who have not been there, really is you've got the reemergence of the gypsies, if you will. You've got the reemergence of the street vendors hawking counterfeit merchandise. You've got the gang activity beginning again. You've got so this is all under De Blasio as well. But we're seeing this encroachment of crime and this. What would you call it? The disintegration of our society all across the urban areas of the country. You're exactly right.
Here in Detroit, we have a town, city within a city, Hamtramck, and growing up as a kid, it was all a Polish community. You'd go down through Hamtramck, and I'll tell you, those old Polish women, they'd have their yards clean. They'd vacuum their grass and cut it with scissors. That's how groomed this place was. And I'm not even exaggerating. Well, now the place is completely destroyed, and it's turned into a Muslim community.
Yep.
The Muslims have complained so much about the church bells. They're not allowed to ring their church bells anymore, because they would ring them on Sundays at such and such time, or once in a while they would play like a little chime or something, on certain events. They're not allowed to do that anymore. They've shut it down.
Can you hear the call to prayer? The call to prayer from the
absolutely.
There you go.
Absolutely. They have them on. They have guys that run around in vans with big old speakers on them, and you can hear that constantly. Just like you watch the videos overseas where there's war going on, and you can hear that in the background, like it runs constantly. And I don't know how that's more offensive than once in a while the church bells.
Well, of course, but it's all done in the name of tolerance. It's all done in the name of under the pretext of this multiculturalism, and what you're witnessing, I believe, is the future of our country in all respects. The industrial aspect of it, the socio-economic breakdown, but most importantly, the call to prayer, and that to me signifies the integration of the Islamic, the cult of Islam into the into our religious system, which will be subjugated by Islam in this one world religion, part of the one world.
They've totally taken over Hamtramck. In our nicer neighborhoods in the suburbs, the police at every mosque, which there's a lot of mosques up like in Rochester, Michigan, every time they let out with their mosque, and listen, I'm not a terrorist, I'm not a racist or nothing like this, but why do they get special treatment where they get a police escort when their mosque lets out? Every time there's marked police cars with their lights running, and they escort, make sure that all of them get out safely out of their church, out of their mosque.
Man, that's amazing.
I videotaped them. It's like, how come we don't get this when we go to our church? I don't know.
Well, yeah, the information that you've given us is important. I think people need to hear this. People don't, it's if you live in Tulsa, Oklahoma, or that's probably a bad example, but if you live in the heartland of the United States, you're not familiar. You might not be familiar with what's going on in your area and in the larger cities, but it's coming to a city near you. Believe me.
Yeah,
so.
I mean, Dearborn's real bad with stuff like that. But I mean, I'll tell you, man, I just wanted to make sure and let you guys know that you guys really did, by running your show and me stumbling on it that night, you really helped me out. And in turn, it's bled down to my network, because I turn the people I love and care about onto you guys and your people that you have
faith and trust in that you bring on your show. Obviously, you must like research them before you even bring them on the show. I think since I've been listening to you, one person got through your pre-screening that was kind of weak, and you were talking to him, and it just so happened to be that you guys got disconnected, and I could have just, if I could have seen through the phone, you must have been wiping your brow saying, man, I'm glad we got disconnected from that guy. That was good.
Yeah,
but, I'll let you go and bring in some other callers, though, okay?
Well, we're at the end of the show. God bless you, my friend. God bless you, Paul.
Thanks
and
for
you
the
have
call.
a great day. Man.
All right, you too, guys. Thanks a lot.
All right, brother.
Tomorrow, Steve Quayle, Ross Powell will be with us.
It's going to be a powerful show tomorrow. You're not going to want to miss it. It's going to be all about the economy and the push toward the one world economic system and the criminalization of cash.
Yeah, and then Thursday, Greg Jackson will be joining us talking about judicial supremacy and the upcoming Supreme Court decision on homosexual marriage.
And folks, AmericanSurvivalWholesale.com, AmericanSurvivalWholesale.com, our partners in this radio enterprise. Get prepared. Do it now.
Stay safe. God bless. Until tomorrow, have a good night.